Welcome everybody to another video recording of answering NCARB live questions. This video is we're going to cover questions about the Prometric test centers as well as our migration to PSI in the future. And our first question is, if I don't have the ability to test remotely and the Prometric center isn't following social distancing, what are my options for a safe test experience? This is a difficult question that every candidate is going to have to answer for themselves, which is if your local test center is not following social distancing guidelines because it's not required by local mandates, but you're not comfortable testing in that environment, then the choice is going to be either to look at a way to test remotely, either in your home or at your local office or your local AI component. And if those aren't available to you, then unfortunately, your choice may be best to not go in and test at this time. I will point out NCARB has extended everyone's rolling clock as of March 2020 for 15 months. So nobody right now is being impacted by the rolling clock. We certainly do hope that issues related to the pandemic have resolved themselves prior to that 15-month rolling clock extension, being done. If not, NCARB is going to look at extending that rolling clock extension.
All right, our next question. I am scheduled to do an in-person exam in November. Can you speak to the HVAC systems at Prometric and whether or not they are recycling the air in the testing rooms? Unfortunately, I cannot speak to the systems at individual test centers. Those centers are all run by Prometric or their third parties. And I can say, again, similar to what Jared said, those test centers are operating in compliance with local mandates and regulations. And so unfortunately, I can't provide specific information about those individual test center systems.
So our next question says, what if the Prometric location where you take the test doesn't have 23-inch screens or 23-inch monitors? The reality is the ARE, the Architect Registration Examination, is built to really work best on a 19-inch or larger monitor. You can certainly have a larger monitor, it can be 24, 25. One of the benefits of Prometric is they do really try to have a standardized experience. So they try to do 23-inch screens everywhere. Our understanding is that is the situation throughout their test center network. But if somebody does go to test somewhere where the screens are a little bit smaller, they're still going to have full access to the exam. They're going to be able to see everything still clear and in high quality.
Our next question, who are the proctors going to be, NCARB or Prometric staff? So they will all be Prometric staff, and that is just like today, you go to a Prometric test center, the test center administrators or TCAs as they're called are all Prometric employees. The same thing applies when you take an online proctored exam through the Prometric ProProctor service. The proctors, again, will all be Prometric staff.
So the next question says, if you choose to test in person, are you required to wear a mask for the entire testing duration, or are you able to be socially distanced without the need to wear a mask once seated? So what I'm saying, as of the recording of this video, Prometric is requiring that candidates wear a mask the entire time they are in the test center. So even if you are sitting in a socially distanced testing room, you will still be required to wear the mask. That certainly could change, and it's all going to evolve as situations in local jurisdictions do change.
Is there any way to enforce more stringent social distancing at the test sites? So once again, those test sites are all being run according to local mandates for social distancing requirements. So unfortunately, NCARB does not have the ability to enforce additional social distancing beyond what would be required in a particular local jurisdiction. It goes back to some of what Jared was discussing earlier. If you are uncomfortable with the social distancing or other requirements at your local test center, then certainly maybe the online proctoring option might be one that you would want to look into, or possibly explore maybe other test centers might have some different requirements in place.
So our next set of questions starts to transition and talk about PSI, which is going to be the new test administration vendor for NCARB starting in the summer of 2021. And so our first question related to PSI says, will PSI allow dual monitors? And the answer right now to that is no. So even in an online testing environment with PSI next year, it is still going to be a single monitor configuration based on their test delivery software.
All right, our next PSI question. Will PSI international testing centers be available to candidates? So based on what we know today, we can say that yes, we do expect that there will be testing centers in other countries available to candidates when we launch with PSI in summer 2021. And of course, we will also have the online proctoring option available with PSI, which certainly gives candidates outside the US, again, that similar opportunity to test remotely, in addition to finding a test center near where they're living.
So our next question, a little bit longer, says, if I'm scheduled for a test with Prometric, but want to wait until the summer to take it, and the program rolls over to PSI, will I be able to switch, or do I still have to take the test with Prometric? So one thing to understand about this is your eligibilities today as a candidate are held by Prometric, right? So the eligibilities get created, but they're sent to Prometric, and it's a Prometric eligibility to test. So right now, an exam scheduled with Prometric is not going to automatically port over to PSI. So the best way to think about this is schedule appointments with Prometric that you want to take with Prometric, because you're not going to be able to just move them over. We will build a system as part of the launch of PSI that's going to allow candidates to migrate their eligibilities from the Prometric environment to the PSI environment. And it literally will be closing your Prometric ones and opening in PSI. So if you're scheduled in Prometric, take it in Prometric. You won't be able to schedule in PSI until you've migrated your eligibilities over.
And related to that, how will all of the rest of this be changing when you switch from Prometric to PSI? Will there be another update, or will the requirements stay the same? Well, we've been talking in this video and in other videos about a lot of updates that are happening at this time. So a lot of big changes, the new break policy, the electronic whiteboard, the move from IBC 2015 to IBC 2018, those will all remain in place. So we don't expect that any of those big changes will change again when we make the move to PSI. I would expect that there might be some small changes, though. So the interface that a candidate experiences might be different. We'll be looking at if we need to make any updates to the demonstration exam that candidates can try out before they go into test with PSI. We'll certainly be letting candidates know about that. So I would say big picture changes, I would not expect to see many as we move to PSI. But little changes, just some tweaks to that sort of, where might certain buttons be, or, small things about that experience. There might be some updates as we're moving from one vendor to another.
So our next question talks about fees and says, does NCARB anticipate increasing exam fees with the change to PSI? And the answer is no, we do not.
Okay. Next question, what if there is not a PSI test center close to me? So as you might expect, when we move from one test vendor to another, the exact location of those test centers is going to change because it's moving from one network to a different network. We will be releasing more information to candidates in the first part of 2021. Where you'd be able to learn more about where your local PSI test centers will be. So you'll be able to get up to speed on that, certainly before we launch with PSI. If there isn't a PSI test center right near you, again, you'll still have the option for the online proctoring, like we are launching soon with Prometric. Again, we'll be continuing to have online proctoring with PSI, so that would always be an option for you.
And then our final question in this section is PSI online only? And if so, does that mean we are indefinitely moving toward an online only testing? So PSI is not online only. PSI does have a test center network. Following up on some things Michelle said, the PSI test center network actually has more testing locations than the Prometric network does. So we're hoping that our candidates are going to, and we actually did some analysis of this based on current zip codes of people who have eligibilities, to see that current candidates, if we were to switch from Prometric to PSI today, would not have any additional travel time overall. Now that does mean some candidates are likely going to find their new PSI test center further away than their current Prometric. Others are likely going to find that their PSI test center is much closer than their current Prometric, right? And that there's going to be some give and take there, but there will still be a network. There's actually going to be more network locations. And as Michelle said, there will still be the online option. So thank you very much for watching this video. We hope you found answers to these questions helpful as well.